Hey kids, Mr. Ta here, and we're still going to talk about editing, but specifically about homophones and sentence fragments. So we'll start with the homophones. Homophones, they are a spelling trap. That's because if you've been using our technique, you're going backwards and you're reading every word, and you might get to the point where you read everything and you're using spell check and everything seems right, but homophones are words that sound the same but are spelled differently. So that might mean that you are using a word that's spelled correctly, but it's the wrong word entirely. We're going to talk about two types of homophones today: the two, and two, and it's and its. Notice the different spellings of two, and two, it's and its. So there are three types of twos that you need to watch out for. So let's talk about the twos first: two, and two. The first one, just to, that's a preposition. That's generally the one that you use most often. That's like if I said, my mother went to the store. She asked me to watch my brother. Just a plain old to sound. Now, too, that's two. That means also or more than you want. I like to think that you can remember it because it looks like there's too many O's in the word. Too. So you'd be like, I wanted to go to. My brother was too annoying. And then, of course, there's TWO, to the number two. And I don't have a really great way of remembering it, except for that there's a W and then get it double. There's two of them. So maybe that's how we'll do it. The TWO, that stands for the number. Like, I wish my mom didn't have two kids. So notice three different types of twos. Make sure that when you read your stories, when you're looking at the twos, that they're the right two to use. So now we'll talk about the itses. There are two types: ITS and IT apostrophe S. And I will tell you, as a student, I had a hard time with these two. I always used IT apostrophe S when I should have been using ITS for some things. So let's talk about the IT apostrophe S. IT apostrophe S, it stands for it is. Whenever you see an apostrophe in a word, that's because what we've done is we've shortened the word. We've taken two words and smushed them together. We had to rip out a whole bunch of letters in the middle and smush the words together. And that apostrophe is basically telling us that there are some letters missing that the apostrophe is sort of making up for. So it is, that little apostrophe kind of makes up for the fact that the I was ripped out of those two words. So if we use the word like the sentence, it's too bad my brother had to come along, that's when you'd use it is. If you can replace it with it is, you have to use that apostrophe there. Now the other it's, just ITS, that's a possessive pronoun. That means belonging to it. Sort of like how his, it means belonging to him, or hers means it belongs to her. Notice no apostrophes here in his or hers. There should be no apostrophe on its either. Like this, we said, he grabbed the cart by its handle and pushed it as hard as he could down the aisle. See, that handle belongs to the cart, and so therefore it's just ITS, just like its or his or hers. It's just a pronoun. Okay, so the two big things that we need to learn today are the two, and two, and the it's and it's with an apostrophe. So those were spelling editing issues. Now let's look at a sentence sense spelling issue today. We'll talk about sentence fragments. So sentence fragments are pieces. They are incomplete sentences. They're not full sentences because they're missing a part. They're either missing the subject, that's the part of the sentence that tells who or what the sentence is about, or the predicate, and that's the part of the sentence that tells what the subject is doing. So they tend to sound very choppy and weird. Remember, every complete sentence is going to have a subject and a predicate. Somebody is doing something, and the predicate is what they do. So you always have to have both. So let's see if we can find some sentence fragments here in this little snippet from the story that we had been hearing all last week. So remember, when we look for sentence sense, we read each sentence until we reach a punctuation mark, an ending punctuation, like a period, an exclamation point, or a question mark, and we decide whether or not the sentences make sense or not. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read them to you, and after each one, You will show your teacher with a thumbs up or a thumbs down whether or not you think that this sentence made sense or it sounds like just a part of the sentence, like something's missing. So here we go. As night fell, we heard the first raindrops falling outside. We turned on the living room lamps. It began to rain harder and harder. Before long, the rain was so loud against the shingles we had to shout to hear each other. The wind began to blow, shaking the walls and sending things rolling down the street. All right, well, there was a lot of thumbs up, thumbs down. I think a lot of you may have gotten them. A lot of these sentences are good. Let's see just how well you did. These were the sentence fragments, the ones that did not work. Falling outside is a predicate. Something's happening, but we don't know what's happening. Shaking the walls, the same thing. Something is doing something, shaking the walls, but we don't know what is shaking the walls. And sending things rolling down the street. Again, what is sending things rolling down the street? These are three predicates missing subjects, and so they are technically fragments. So now, hopefully, if you got them right, good for you, congratulations. So how do we fix them? Well, one of the easiest ways is we start figuring out where they can go and we can connect fragments to other sentences. Like this one, we just basically stuck this falling outside next to the back of the other ones. The back of the previous sentence. As night fell, we heard the first raindrops falling outside. Makes more sense. And here, we took both of those fragments for shaking the walls and sending things rolling down the street, and we just, again, used some commas and joined it to the previous sentence because the wind was the thing doing it. So now we have the wind began to blow, shaking the walls, and sending things rolling down the street. Those make sense now. So now it's time for you to write. You can still revise your story if you haven't finished, but we got to start hurrying up. Revise those stories. Make sure that there's more sense details and, of course, add more transitional words, phrases. Try to write another lead, another ending. Make sure you give yourself some choices. Edit your story for sentence sense, capitalization, and spelling, especially our new things of looking for fragments and looking for the homophones 2, 2, and 2, and it's and its. And if you've done that and you're still looking for something to do, write another story. It might be better than the first one you did. So until next time, I'm Mr. Ta.